The voice mode has definitely been improved in its kind of emotional range, but this kind of distinguishing between multiple speakers is something that only Google Gemini at this point can do.
These video models getting more director control functionality. You can really be on the director's chair of creating your entire video.
This is a perfect example of how Elon Musk uses Parkinson's laws. We're already seeing scientists saying that they're way more productive. Their research is progressing faster because they get to work with AI. And all of this has only just begun. It's going to be a company that is completely unknown in the gaming industry that's going to be the first one to launch something like this, and it's going to be an instant, like, massive hit.
Hey, and welcome everybody to a new episode of the Innovation Network newsletter, where Ergon and I are looking back 2 weeks in everything that has happened in the world of AI, innovation, and tech, exponential change. And we have a lot to discuss this time around. How you doing, buddy?
Do we ever not have a lot to discuss?
That is the thing. It's every time we have so much new stuff. It's just only curating and selecting what we will discuss is just a tiny slice of what's happening. It's crazy.
I was going to say, I think we just spent 18 minutes ago just going over what we're going to do, and we have too much to cover. I also just got a brand new idea for one of those viral VO3 videos, or maybe it's going to be, of course, the sea dance that we're going to cover later. We should make a video of scientists like 1,000 years ago trying to do a bi-weekly podcast on the news development.
And then they have a flat line in there.
Yeah, they're like in the first episode, yeah, man, we just discovered that the Earth might not be the center of the universe. And then 1 week later, yeah, well, we still have the same discovery, but now the Inquisition is chasing us down and trying to put us on the stake.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. But before we start, let's look back, because last Wednesday, we had a pretty big event, which was a milestone event for us, I think, especially for you. It was an AI Masterclass for business leaders together with partner DPG and with Ergon. I've put in some small pictures to talk a little bit about it. It was a full day, 120 people in Amsterdam, and as you can see, it was a packed house. You did your most recent version of your keynote. How did you look back on the whole thing, Ergon?
Yeah, I mean, it was very cool. We actually have a complete video recording, which will soon be completely edited. And then it will be available on YouTube. And I'm going to send it around to theater agents across the Netherlands in hopes that one of them will want to work with me to turn this thing into a public theater kind of a performance that I can go and do on multiple theaters in the Netherlands. But yeah, everything went really well. I think it was one of the best performances I've done recently. Definitely, I upgraded this one, so in some ways it was different and new, and unlike something I'd done before, I'd added some elements. There was one thing that didn't really work out, unfortunately. It won't be in the recording either, but I set up a test, a kind of way to interact with Google Gemini's new voice model, and basically the Project Astra aspect, where you can use the camera to look at things and then get to have a conversation with Gemini about that. And I've done it before and it worked, but for some reason I used it before we started the keynote, and then during the keynote something in the browser bugged out, and I fixed it actually the next day. So it turned out all I had to do was really completely close down Google Chrome and then boot it back up. So the solution was rather simple, but in the moment I didn't know what was going on, and for some reason Gemini didn't see my mobile web camera, which was my phone, with which I was walking around. But apart from that little thing, which is not really big for the story as a whole, it was really cool. And of course the DeLorean brought by Jean-Paul Vos was a big attraction as well. So that one,
it was really a big attraction.
Yeah,
it's a big attraction that you might figure who was the biggest attraction, you or the DeLorean.
Yeah, and
man, everybody wants to take a picture with the DeLorean.
Everybody
right?
wanted a picture with the DeLorean, and unfortunately, I kind of regret not getting one, because I have one with a mobile picture from 2 years ago when I first met Jean-Paul, but I didn't. I could have had one now from a professional photographer, and I completely missed that opportunity. But you know.
What I noticed is that on average, most of the people here were already bought into the entire concept of AI. They already knew that there was exponential change. This was pretty an AI advanced audience. But still, after hearing your talk, people were kind of buzzing and thinking, wow, this goes way faster than I anticipated. That was interesting. Normally we have people that are not so far ahead in thinking what exponential tech will mean for them.
Yeah. It's actually interesting that you mentioned that, because I did actually get multiple personal messages afterwards thanking me, which is always nice, because honestly, I really believe my story, but whenever I do a talk, especially one like this where the audience is kind of well informed, I really wonder, who's going to stand up and say, well, Ergon, did you think of this and did you think of that? And this is nonsense. Will they really believe me? But I got multiple messages saying literally, well, look, usually I'm pretty skeptical. I've heard a lot of AI talks and they're not all that great. And, these kind of AI gurus, I take them with a grain of salt. But your story really, really, really triggered something in me because you take it into historical perspective, right?
Yeah.
And that's, of course, also what you do in your book, by the way. You have a slightly different approach, but we both do the same thing. Yeah. We try to play it in a much larger context. And when you place it in a much larger context, it really paints a completely different picture. And I think it's so relevant because I get so much criticism on LinkedIn as well. And people say, well, who are you? You don't have any relevant experience in AI, or you don't even know how to code. And these kinds of remarks we get a lot, right? Especially me, because I always challenge people. But it's such an unfair assessment because it insinuates that without a specific type of knowledge, you cannot say anything about this. But, a stockbroker who does technical analysis on the stock market and is able to make a lot of profits for his fund or whatever, usually doesn't know how, for example, ASML's lithography machines work on a granular level, right? He is not an expert in that field. He knows a lot about it, like we know a lot of the trends and the developments and the history, but how the specific technology itself actually works is not part of his toolkit. But you don't need to. You don't need to if you understand context, trends, and that. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. Hey, and there were multiple parts to the day. After your keynote, we took people away for different, basically our famous discussion tables, right? And here's a nice picture of what we did. So let's translate it. In my room, we had a discussion about the statement saying that 80% of the work today can be done by AI of white collar work. Yep. In my table, everybody kind of agreed with the statement right away from the bat. Usually this is a discussion point. Everybody agreed. The discussion that we had at the table is, what are we going to do? And most of the people at the table were having difficulties grasping the concept. This is interesting. You opened your keynote with a reference to, we're looking at the blue sky. And when AI is done and the abundance is here, we can all lay in the park and look at the blue sky. And that came back to the table. People couldn't believe that humanity, there's a possibility for people to do that. They had a lot of difficulties grasping that concept. So we kind of debated that for the entire hour.
Yeah, I recognize that in our group as well. So because I couldn't get the screen up and I kind of forgot I had this central statement to discuss, I basically allowed all the groups to come up with their own questions. And then we did rounds where each group would present their statement and we would shortly discuss that without the intent of solving it right there on the spot, but really to trigger deeper thoughts and conversation. It worked really well, but this was something that we got as came back in our group as well. That and fear of dystopic futures where the technology runs away with us, or more importantly, where bad actors run away with it. Both of those come back. But yes, the lack of being able to understand or believe in a future where we're not defined by our 9-to-5 roles is something. And another thing that I noticed there is that, and I think this just shows how lucky we are to be Dutch and to live in the Netherlands. And it's also kind of the audience. So many people seem to really enjoy their work. And so they think about that like, oh yeah, but I enjoy my work. I don't want to stop doing it. And it's such a kind of, it's great, right? I'm super happy for these people. Don't get me wrong. But they really completely disregard the fact that the vast majority of humans on Earth do not enjoy their job. They go there because it is a necessity, not because they like doing it. So,
At my table, there was a person that stated, so if you like your job that much, why don't you do a virtual job? And that is one of the scenarios also in the book 2041, if you remember a little bit about. People are in some kind of a virtual environment. They think they control a robot. They think they do important work, but actually they're just in some kind of simulation to keep them happy. It was an interesting conversation all day.
Yeah, that is an interesting one.
It is.
I mean, I've gamed a lot, and I can tell you from first-hand experience that gaming can be really fun, but ultimately, long-term, if you don't do something next to it that you feel is is really, and this is the interesting part, because how do you define this, right? But I know that even though I'm doing a game where I'm doing things that are in the game world are useful, there's a part of my brain that knows that it's not real, and so it's not really useful. And ultimately, if you play a game long enough, and you stop doing other valuable things, that really starts to eat away at you, and you become unhappy. So there's
just something that you say to yourself. If I would say to you, every hour that you game, I make a contribution to a cancer fund. Then you would continue gaming, feeling that you have a purpose, right? With the same thing.
It's probably, probably. Yeah.
Hey, and there was a final part of our good friend Rijn-Jan. I did a recording of Made in Europe podcast. You see this type of podcast and this type of conversations popping up everywhere, right? This is really Europeans' mind, especially in the Netherlands. How does Europe step up? This was a good contribution as well. He's talking here to Sophie Bloemen. And they had a debate about, sovereign, how do we get independent from the US apps?
How do we regain our sovereignty? Yeah, man, I have to admit, this whole conversation has really sparked a lot of thinking in me. Because there's the part of me that is really convinced that by saying goodbye to these, they are American suppliers, right? Because Microsoft is an American company. But I mean, the majority of Microsoft clients is not in the United States, right? The majority is outside of it. So, I mean, obviously, it's a company that sits in the United States, but in another way, it's also kind of an international company, I think. And I do see all the risks. And I think that Trump really kind of mostly enforced this whole mega movement now, make Europe great again. Trump made mega a real thing now. Yeah. But I also feel that in so many ways, it requires us to step back and to accept a much, much lower standard of technological prowess for a significant time. Because if like, for example, a lot of people are now very proudly announcing, we're seeing all these big decisions that governmental organizations or even countries are saying, well, we're going to now move to open office, I think it was, or something like that. And they're going to get rid of their Microsoft stack. And I'm thinking to myself, but none of these open source projects, they're all legacy kind of software. They're all the old fashioned. They're just a worse version of Excel, a worse version of PowerPoint, a worse version of Word.
But why is that? Why is that? If you go to Lovable, with all these kind of things, I can easily replicate a complete Uber app, a complete app. So copying the technology, as the Chinese did as well, shouldn't be too difficult if we have the investment in data centers and infrastructure and energy. That's the thing we need. Not the apps itself shouldn't be too difficult to copy Excel, right?
No, it shouldn't be, but it has been for a long time. And the thing and the thing that I'm now worried about is that by doing that, we're basically not just going to the back seat, but we're literally getting out of the car and jumping on a cart behind us. Because, what are all of these open source solutions doing with AI? Are they working to integrate this? Are they working to make this available to us? What if now everybody in this kind of mindset of make Europe great again, we're all jumping off all the American tech companies, but the solutions we're jumping on, they completely lack integration. They completely lack any roadmap for AI integration, all of that. Then the consequences of doing this now without really carefully thinking about that and making sure that we make the right decisions will be that we lag decades, maybe even behind the United States. I don't think people are fully grasping the potential consequences of just saying, okay, we're just gonna drop Microsoft 100%. Like everybody is like, oh, the Netherlands, all the municipalities, they're all on Microsoft. It's so bad. Well, what about what's good about it? What about the fact that, we actually have really state-of-the-art tech infrastructure for our governmental organizations? I mean, nobody is talking about how the experience of the average citizen in France is, where they have to deal with a municipality that still has an open source software package that basically has the capabilities of 10 years ago and hasn't been updated, and people don't even know how to use it properly. What about skill set?
But I think that tech, knowledge, all these things, we don't have to be away from that. We can easily copy and use what we have. We have bright minds here as well, but we need action. We need execution. We need something like, okay, somebody's building something like Colossus in 122 days, and then off you go with XAI. That type of initiative is what we need to get to make a foundational start.
Yeah, I think that you're really hitting the nail on the head there, and that's the thing that worries me, because that's what I don't see in Europe.
No,
I don't see any entrepreneurs in Europe with that kind of mindset, doing that kind of thing, being that bold. And I think that the reason we don't have them here is because the environment, the legislation environment, etc., the bureaucracy of the EU is forcing those people to go elsewhere. Yeah. And I think that might be the problem. And then there's the alternative. Why don't we swing around and start, building our relationship with China and Asia? I think that would be very wise to do. I would highly recommend our governments and our people to do that. But the culture language difference still seems to be a major obstacle there. Yeah. But because the fact is, I spoke with John Lin, right? He's a Dutch China expert, and he used to be e-commerce expert. And we're talking about doing China trips, right? Study trips. And last week we had our AI Masterclass, and people even reached out to me like, are you going to China? Because I talk about it a lot, because they're super interested. So
Let's
this is something that
see if we can fix this out.
We're going to make this happen. But I spoke to John, and John said, well, look, here's the thing that people don't understand in Europe. Every Chinese company has their own custom built AI. Right now. And we saw DeepSeek, right? Oh, DeepSeek. And now this week, we're going to discuss Cdance. ByteDance is also Chinese, also building AI. We see 1, 2, maybe 3 of them come out, and we say, wow, look at what they're doing there. But the truth is that this is just the tip of the iceberg. In China, every company has their own AI already, and they're all integrating it. So in China, a lot of companies don't use Microsoft. Right? They have their alternatives. They're right there, available. They're already built to spec, super advanced. They're just all in Chinese. We could get great stuff from them, and we could hug up with what's going to be the next global empire, or at least the center of it. That could also be a possibility, but nobody's even considering that one. It's all about, okay, it's not going to be the US, so then we're just going to use our own crappy open source, because that's the only thing we have. And you're right, we could build it ourselves, but I don't see anybody doing it, and I don't see the right kind of talent or mindset to get that done. And that's what worries me. And then why is this alternative not being considered? Yeah.
Let's move on, Ergon, because this was only the intro to a lot of topics we had to discuss, right? So 4 or 5 different updates from OpenAI. Let's go over them. One of the things that has been announced is that they now have a recording feature. Most of the people listening to this are using ChatGPT, of course. There's now this small microphone where you can open it and record. I'm actually going to press that right now. Why not? And just have the entire conversation recorded and see what comes out of that. But last time we spoke about the device that is coming with John Ivey. Already one feature here that it records everything 24/7 around you to make sense of all the data around you. What do you think?
People are speculating that it is online. I don't know. I don't know. There's some gut feeling in me that just doesn't think that an AI that's always recording everything and then structurizing that data for you is really, really the way to go. I mean, on the other hand, the Google glasses, they can remind you, oh, where did I put my hotel card? Or I was at my friend's place and he had this book that we discussed. What was it again? That kind of stuff. I can totally see the appeal, and I can totally see how it could be extremely useful having this kind of extra digital kind of memory layer. On the other hand, I just don't know if
what
having
as weird in this whole thing is that 10 years ago we had Siri and Alexa, and everybody was talking about, hey, is it or not listening to everything else that we are saying, right? And we were very scared of it. And now all of a sudden we seem to embrace something like this. Just turn it on and we record everything.
It's true, man. I don't know. That's true. There's a lot of people that really don't want this.
No, that's a lot of. I don't want it either. But it seems to be sneaking into the back door some way, somehow.
Yeah, I'm not. I think I wouldn't be surprised if ChatGPT really kind of comes out with or OpenAI comes out with a device. I mean, I've only seen negative reactions to all the devices that have already been proposed on the market, because there are devices out there now like AI hangers, right, that record stuff. And generally speaking, the responses have not been great. And that's why you don't see them being massively advertised, because all of them came out and they got so much backlash that they kind of dwindled away again to the background, I think. And none of them really took off. I don't know.
You're right. that is in the physical world. But if you look at all the Zoom meetings, everybody has, you could have an entire day where you speak to everybody, where at least one person has an AI agent or multiple, and the entire day is some way, somehow recorded, all by the same big tech company. So that it's all kind of, no problem. That people are getting used to that quite easily.
You're right about that. And it could be that slowly but surely will change the attitude. And then it will become more acceptable to have this in the real world as well.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to the next one, because this is interesting. They announced a collaboration with Mattel, the toy maker. And there's nothing really announced here, just a collaboration, and that Mattel is going to use their stuff for ideation and all that kind of things. But I'm thinking about, did you see Megan?
Megan?
Oh man, you have to see Megan. Go to Netflix tonight in your hotel room. I know you have a keynote somewhere. Megan, that is a new video of a new movie where a toy gets completely built with AI. And of course, this goes horribly wrong. This is a new Chucky movie. It's pretty cool.
Okay, all right.
But I can see these small dolls already completely equipped, small humanoids with AI.
Yeah, you can equip it with AI, but I mean, I was this weekend at my godchild, Flora, and she was playing with a horse which can actually walk. So it's like a Barbie horse, it's this size. And it can walk around and it makes noises. And Michael said to me, her father, he said, if you have bad intent with the parents of another child, give them a toy that makes noise. Because what kids will do is they just play that for hours and hours and hours and the same noise, and it just drives you crazy. But I was looking at it and I was thinking about it. And the thing is, robotics have come a long way. But the technology required to make a doll start moving lifelike and then be controlled by AI, it's possible. But we're still at the point where it's very expensive. So I wonder whether that really will be a thing. I think it's more going to be along the lines of where you have an OpenAI product and you say, for example, this is what we did with Michael as well this weekend. He had Flora draw an image of something. So it was a snail, or there was another thing, and it was called Wuso. And then he gave it to ChatGPT with a picture and he said, can you make this into a real image? And then it actually, maybe I have it here, and then it made a super cool picture of the snail, which suddenly all made sense, like a cartoon. And then he said, can you make it real? And then you got a photorealistic image of the same snail looking really cool. And now there are already companies out there like Make My Plush or, Make My Toy, where you can send these kind of designs, OpenAI made image, and they will actually make it into a real toy. And I think that a lot of these companies, they're doing quite well, but it's not massive yet. But I think this is where we will see the collaboration between OpenAI and Mattel will work together, where you can literally in the ChatGPT app design a brand new toy or something, and then Mattel will basically produce it for you. So you get your own custom-made Barbie, and then you just get it delivered at home. That's more along the lines.
That is a very likely first stage. I totally agree with you. You can design something and you have a 3D at your home, or you could easily print it. That could be a next stage as well. The use case that you just talked about, I have done that with Jess.
Nice, yeah.
Here we have her first initial picture, right?
Yeah.
This is what she drew. And then AI made this of it.
That's
and
pretty
then they made a video of it. It's pretty scary.
Oh, okay. How did you make the video? That was not with you, was it?
Yeah, this is just Sora.
Oh, it's Sora, yeah. Okay.
This is just one upload, one take. Yeah.
So actually the original drawing is not up here. It uploaded the image. It didn't share that because this is the shared thread. But Flora made a drawing. He turned it into Ich bin Wuso. And then this is Wuso real. And then with the snail again, same thing. She made an image, drew it, and they turned it to this. And you can see how this could be a Mattel toy, right? Even this snail already, like you can clearly see that.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe this was a little bit unnoticed for people, but the voice mode has been upgraded significantly, actually.
Hey, ChatGPT, we're here on a podcast, and we want to show off your new voice capabilities.
Hey there, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm happy to be part of your podcast and show off my voice. Let me know what you'd like me to do or talk about.
Hey, I'm Ergon, and...
Hey, my name is Patrick.
Hey, Ergon and Patrick. Nice to have both of you here. How's it going?
Okay, yeah, it's going really well. Can you distinguish between us?
I can definitely tell when it's a different voice, so I'll do my best to keep track. But if I mix you up, just let me know.
Cool. I hear you're very good at live translations. Can we try that out?
Absolutely. I'd love to give it a try. Just let me know
Super.
which languages you want to use and we can test it out.
So what about I speak Dutch and you translate it for our listeners to English?
That sounds perfect. Go ahead and start speaking in Dutch and I'll translate it into English for everyone listening.
Oké, mijn naam is Patrick en ik ben 50 jaar oud. En de verwachting is wel dat ik 250 jaar ga worden.
Okay, my name is Patrick. I'm 50 years old, and the expectation is that I'm going to live to be 250 years old.
Nice.
That's pretty good. So can you do something else? So whenever we talk to you, you straight away translate that to the other language. So I'm going to speak Dutch as well, and then you're going to translate it to English for Patrick, and then Patrick talks Dutch back, and you translate it again straight to English for me. Okay?
Got it. So whenever you speak Dutch, I'll translate it into English. And whenever Patrick speaks Dutch, I'll do the same. Let's give it a try.
Nou Patrick, nu werkt het echt prima, toch?
Het werkt zeker goed. Ik ben wel heel erg positief verbaasd.
Now, Patrick, it sounds like it's working perfectly now, right? It's working really well. I'm really positively surprised.
So you did both of us in one go there. Yeah. Nice. Okay, how about your emotional range? Can you give us a little angry, maybe?
I can definitely try that out. Let me know what you want me to say, and I'll give it that angry tone.
You humans, you're so slow.
You humans, you're so slow.
Yeah, we're pretty slow. How about, hey, you humans are so slow.
Hey, you humans are so slow.
I don't know. I think you notice it better when you're not trying to actively engage it. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes it's more noticeable when you're just speaking naturally. Let me know if you want to try anything else.
No, I think we're good for now, right, Patrick? Or is there anything you want to ask?
We're good. Thanks.
Awesome. I'm glad we could test that out. If you ever want to try something else or need anything at all, just let me know.
So one of the things that I notice is, first off, the voice mode on desktop, which is this, is significantly less good than the one on voice for some reason. And I don't know what it is. I think it's mostly the audio quality. This one just more often seems to kind of have degraded audio, whereas on the telephone it sounds better. The other thing I don't like still about advanced voice mode is that she seems to finish every conversation with, like, if you have any more questions, just let me know. And it just, I'm so done with that. So done with that. Like, of course, I know that. You don't need to keep telling me. Thank you.
It's like a cliffhanger, or it's not a cliffhanger. It's like keeping your attention engaged, keeping you engaged with it. Yeah. It's also very not unhuman. Yeah.
No, and I mean, there are other things that we need to point out about the new advanced voice mode. First off, on phone, you can now show captions. So you can have it show on the screen in text what it's saying. I think that's super great, because that's a feature I was really missing. I really hated that you couldn't get that, because I really often just want to talk and read what she says at the same time, specifically when it's about, you know, specific names or words that you want to look up. And then secondly, you now can replay a message. So you can listen to it again once you said it, which I think is also useful. I would have hoped that with this upgrade, she would have gotten more of the features that we already see in Gemini. For example, in Gemini, through Project Astra, they already have this turn-based coverage, which is going to be rolled out pretty soon to every Android phone, where it's actively listening for the conversation to know when it's her turn. And you can tell here she doesn't always. She's listening if whether someone is talking, but she doesn't know when it's her turn. Yeah. And this is something that I think will be super valuable for having AI where you can actually have it take part in a podcast like this, right? With Gemini, I think very soon we'll be capable of having a whole episode with Gemini turned on, and Gemini will only respond when we address it or when we have it involved, because they're already working on this tech. And with advanced voice mode, this was not integrated now, and I have no idea whether they are working on that. I guess they are, but OpenAI is not so open about where they want to take things. So
then they released O3 Pro and O4 Mini. I made a screenshot of the benchmarks in here. Any thoughts from your side about that upgrade?
Yeah, so like you said, Patrick, they introduced O3 Pro. Now, obviously, because it's Pro, at this point, it's also only behind the Pro subscription, which is $200 a month. And honestly, I'm just not paying for it because I didn't think it was worth it. We have somebody in our ambassadors group, or multiple, that are. So I'd love to hear from them, or from anybody listening to the newsletter, what their experiences are. But they did make one major change, right, Patrick?
Yeah, they sliced the cost by about 80%, if I'm correct there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is incredible, right? Because it just shows again this massive deflationary movement with pricing for AI models. In my keynote, I covered this, and I'm sure you mentioned it many times with clients as well, is that over year, we're seeing like 99% cost reduction for AI models. And here we're seeing the same again. So where O3 was super expensive just a few months ago, now it's already 80% reduced in price in less than half a year. Yeah. I think that's relevant.
Let's wrap up all the OpenAI news with a new blog that Sam Altman posted. We don't have to go completely through it, but I just want to mention that it's out there. It's very much the same tune that we have been singing as well, of course.
Acceleration, right?
We have quietly passed the event horizon. Well, not so quietly, I think, but the genie is out of the bottle. A couple of interesting quotes. We do not know how far beyond human level intelligence we can go, but we are about to find out. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, he's announcing a world of abundance and very positive outlook from Sam, of course.
Yeah, very positive outlook, very much acceleration kind of point of view. He does here and there point out potential negative downsides. He says, for example, creating a small new capability can create a hugely positive impact. A small misalignment multiplied by hundreds of millions of people can cause a great deal of negative impact. And then later on, he also says, what was it? They are focused on making superintelligence cheap, widely available, and not too concentrated with any person, company, or country. Society is resilient, creative, and adaptive. So I think that this is relevant. I was actually kind of surprised. He is very, very specifically mentioning this. And of course, the critics or the skeptics will say, well, it's nice that he's saying that, but is he actually doing it?
Yeah.
Of course, you can question everything. What I think is more impressive is that he's actually mentioning it here in the current political climate of the US, because OpenAI is a US company. I personally can't imagine that Donald Trump likes, and he's not smart enough to see that it could just be Fugazi, I think. But I don't really think that a lot of the current leadership there are very happy about the idea of sharing AI capabilities equally among the rest of the world. So it's interesting that he does go for that and mentions that so specifically. Intelligence too cheap to meter is well within grasp. It may sound crazy, but if we told you back in 2020 where we were going to be where we are today, it probably sounded more crazy than our current predictions about 2030. This is actually an interesting statement, because this is the end of the blog. It made me stop and think, how did I think about today in 2020? And then I realized that 2020 was that was in the middle of COVID or just off the back of it.
No, the beginning, the beginning of 2020 was starting of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. So, by the end of the year, we were coming. Well, we were actually still right in the middle of it. You're right. So
I completely disagree with that final statement. I think the past 5 years, absolutely. If we would transport from 2020 to today, that's crazy. But if we would transport from today to 2030, that's way more crazy. Way more.
Yeah, I agree with that. No doubt about that, because both of us believe that this whole process is an accelerating one, right? So it would be really weird if the change was less impactful based on what we've seen.
It's somewhere in the blog he also talks about, so life will mostly be the same. We will still love our family. We will still go out with the dog.
Yeah.
These kind of statements that he kind of twists circles all over. And in essence, he's right. Basically, that comes back to the discussion we had earlier about what will we do with if we don't have to work. Well, these kind of things that we would love to work. And he's emphasizing the positive sides of going to that. But the world around us in terms of automation, this will be unrecognizable for what we have today.
Yeah. Still, yes. And I agree. But I don't know why I didn't do this before, but when I read this, it was the first time that I actually tried to really actively recall what was my life like in 2020. And even when I just do it standing here, I kind of struggle. I'm already so used to the idea of ChatGPT in my life that I'm already struggling to remember what it was like to only have Google, to have absolutely no AI, to be unable to generate an image in a second or have my text completely altered and edited, to be able to record this podcast and then have the video cut automatically by AI for a rough cut, have all the uhs and ums removed automatically. There's so many things that I do every single day now that are AI powered that did not exist. They just didn't exist in 2020.
And there's more. Like most of the organizations were struggling with the fact that everybody needed to work from home.
Yeah.
We used to work for advanced tech companies or with advanced technology. It was quite easy transition, but a lot of organizations needed to access their files, which were on a server at the office, and then all of a sudden they have to kind of fast forward into that. So that was the world of 2020 for most of the organizations, or a lot of the organizations.
Yeah, that's also interesting because so many companies just finally made that transition to the cloud due to the pressures of COVID. And now we're telling them, well, you can't be in American cloud, so now you need to transition somewhere else. But
so we're gonna post this in the newsletter, of course. Let's move on to something that is super interesting. So this is a report. Look at the top. It's a report from Mary Meeker. It's the Bonds Capital Trends Artificial Intelligence report. It is 340 pages wide, and it's just completely packed with interesting graphs. But I'm just going to show a couple of these because these are the things that you also have a lot of in your keynote. I have not even completely read through it. I'm on 70% of the report.
Me neither.
It's comprehensive, but it is amazing.
It's crazy. It's literally a book, man. But it's very.
But if you have any doubt, if there's exponential growth, then take this one, right? It's hundreds of graphs that all show the same line, how quickly things are being adopted, how fast AI is adopted compared to mobile phones. These growth to 800 million users in 2 years' time.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Here we see bottom left, we see internet versus US leading US-based total concurrent users. So what you see there is how long it took
the internet
to have the 90% mark outside of the US, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting because this clearly shows that for the internet, for example, it took nearly 20 years, I think. It's a little hard to see like this, but over 20 years for 90% of internet users to be outside of the US. But for large language models, AI, so the current generation of AI, it took only 3 years. Right? And then on the top right, you see the amount of users of the AI models from the US. Right, so this is Microsoft, this is Google, this is Meta, and they're already at 800 million. Right, so the start of the graph is 2022 November, which is when ChatGPT was launched, and then the end of the graph is May this year. So they went to 800 million users in less than 2 years. Now, just to give you an idea, LinkedIn, which is globally outside of China anyway, the leading professional social media. By every measure, right? It took them over a decade to get to 800 million users, right? Over a decade. Actually, I think it was a decade and a half, almost 15 years. So this is just mind-blowing growth. And you have to keep in mind here, this is just the US-based LLMs, right? Because like I said before, what we really completely miss here in Europe is that in China, they have so many more large language models and AI apps and integrations. So just in China alone, with almost 2 billion people, there's probably another 800 million users of different models that are not even in this graph, right?
No, I completely agree. I'm just going to pick one more that I thought interesting way, so you get a little bit of a sense of the comparisons that are in this slide deck. There is a story about, let me see, it's 122, I think. Oh yeah, here. So we talked a lot about
this one.
The data center from Elon Musk and how quickly he did that. And then you see these type of comparisons. 120 days to build the whole complex with 750,000 square feet, and the average time to build one house, not even complete, is also the same. So I'll let that rest there. So we'll link this in the newsletter. And
this is so crazy. Yeah. This is so crazy. Like this picture, this is such a good point. And like this is a perfect example of how Elon Musk uses Parkinson's laws, where he says like you'll always finish the amount of time you schedule, you project for it, right? If you say it's going to take 120 days to build a house, then it's going to take 120 days. But if you were to say we're going to do it in a week, you can also do it in a week because, I mean, technically that's what he's doing with the data center. And it's just a matter of, but this also highlights cognitive bias of people. Because if I guarantee you that if you go to the average contractor and you say, I want to build a house, how long is it going to take? They'll tell you, oh, it'll take 120 days. Because that's what they always tell you. That's what they used to. And that's what they believe. And if you tell them, well, can't we do it in half the time? They'll say, no, And if you ask them why, they'll say, well, it takes us 120 days. See? And this is the thing. This is the thing that people don't understand. That once you start breaking that shit down, you can do stuff that everybody thinks is impossible, and then it just happens.
Yeah. But at the same time, this is also a little bit of an unfair. It's a nice comparison, but I just come to think of it that these days, good building companies with 3D printed materials have kind of pre-built an entire home somewhere in a factory, and they are able to put a house on a certain site within a day as well. And the whole notion of 3D printing or building a complete neighborhood pretty fast, it is also a possibilbility, right? But
yeah, and it's become a reality. But in China is the only place I know where they're doing it en masse. Like in China, they'll just build a skyscraper in a week. Right. And yes, they're using 3D printed materials and all of that. But you don't see that here in Europe. It's just another signal of how we are end of empire here. And we're still doing things in old fashioned ways. And honestly, I live in the Netherlands and it's pretty good. But I was in Germany the whole last weekend. And it's almost painful to see that Germany is actually, before my very eyes, turning into a third world country. It's just crazy. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, that's small. Now let's segment not to Germany, to another blog. This is an interesting blog, Ergon. I've bumped upon this a couple of weeks ago, and I've read a couple of blogs, and it's called Every. And I thought this was an interesting article that I wanted to share and talk a little bit about, because this is also the theme of my book, right? So, and Joe Hudson is interesting. He talks about the act of the art of accomplishment. How do you really execute upon ideas? And his statement here in the blog is that knowledge work is dying. And what comes next? Well, what comes next is wisdom work. The difference, because everybody has access to knowledge, right? Knowledge is just making sense of all the information. With AI, we have all that access. But how we arrange our lives to the best possible future, that is about wisdom, right? And we are all moving into wisdom world, into wisdom work, and I like that a lot. I like that take.
I have to say I like this one too. Yeah. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is that isn't that really what the great Greek philosophers and thinkers of ancient history were also about? I mean, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, but also the great Greek, great Roman philosophers and philosopher emperors. They were all about this kind of thing, right? I mean, Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, more than anything. I mean, it was never meant to be a book for people to read 2,000 years later. But if anything, it's his contemplations on a day-to-day basis of what it means to be a good man, a wise man. Yeah. So it's not about, okay, I learned that, this is the maximum size we can build a Roman army if we want to conquer North America, or this is how many resources we need to gather from Germany if you want to sustain our population. That's not what it's about. Or this is what we learned about the stars. It's about how am I going to be a good man? How am I going to be a good man, a wise man? And he wrote his meditations are a whole book to read because he spent his entire life thinking and working on it. So, yeah. This makes a lot of sense.
So this, I think we will hear more of this way of thinking, and I really like that. So we can emphasize that. We'll link this as well. Let's move on because we also are going a little bit over time. But let's go to the next one. This is interesting as well. So we've been talking about VO a lot, extensively. But what you see here is CDAN's first version. This is from ByteDance. So this is a Chinese company, right? And they have, you see the quality of the videos right away. So they're not... Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that ByteDance is the company behind.
Yes, ByteDance is the company behind this. Yes.
No, yeah. But I want to say ByteDance is also the company behind TikTok, no?
Yeah, TikTok. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's very, yeah. Oh, there was quite a
segue that I didn't get. Okay, thanks.
No, the ByteDance, I'm pretty sure, I have to double check it now, but I'm pretty sure ByteDance is the company behind TikTok, behind Douyin. And interestingly enough, what I didn't know, what I learned recently, is that they started out as a news aggregator. But go on.
No, I just wanted to say that you can see it already clearly from the videos and the materials, and we will link some as well in the newsletter. But they have beaten the quality of that. They're the number one from text to video and also from image to video. I don't have access to the system, so I couldn't play with it myself. But what I see here is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So it's confirmed. I was pretty sure, but yeah, ByteDance is the company behind Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok, and so they're also the company behind TikTok.
Yeah. And what I also noticed about this, and of course I didn't play with it myself again, but you see these video models getting more director control functionality. You get the same image, and then you can cut and slice from the same image. For instance, let me see, there's a nice angle. So you see the fox, and then you see it from the side. You can really be on the director's chair of creating your entire video. And that is the final step we need for complete full motion pictures, right? Which we already see happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, obviously, when you're on social media and you see impressive videos, the thing that a lot of people didn't mention in the last 2 years is that basically what you see is that somebody was throwing a coin into the AI model like 1,000 times, just randomly getting something and then waiting until they got something that looked good. But now we're moving into the new age of real control, camera control, focus control, object control. And I think that is super relevant. But I mean, man, I've stopped trying to save all the incredible short films that are coming out that are made with AI, right? We had Echo Hunter, we covered it in an earlier video by Kevin the Kid. He actually came back to me on Instagram yesterday, and I promised him to send him our episode so he can see it. But I see so many coming out. Like the other one I showed in my keynote of this new kind of Star Wars stuff, man. And it's just more mind-blowing every single day.
No, it's an interesting mention because we've been doing these presentations for 2 years, and then you're always on the hunt for the latest video, but it doesn't really matter with video or pictures anymore, right? Matter. So there's so many. This is abundance. So if
what I'm super excited about though, I mean, I played Stellar Blade yesterday, which is a new Asian game, which is very cool. I really think it looks amazing, feels amazing, and you can see that the whole new generation of games is coming into its own now with a whole new level of technology, right? But it's been a year now since we saw Google show off that they have AI models that can literally generate a game while you're playing it. And of course, these games were not really at a GTA level yet, but that is coming. Right, that is coming. Yeah. That is 100% coming. And I can tell you now, I can guarantee it. It's going to be a company that is completely unknown in the gaming industry, right? That's going to be the first one to launch something like this. And it's going to be an instant, like massive hit when the first real good one comes out. That's gonna blow people's minds.
Hey, let's maybe wrap it up with something interesting. GenSpark. It's a Chromium-based browser. So it looks it works the same as Chrome. It looks very much the same as Chrome, by the way. And I just literally installed it yesterday and I played a little bit with it. So this is how GenSpark looks also if you would use a different browser, but this is what I did. I went to our own YouTube channel. And if you, for instance, look to our latest video here, let me put on noise, you see that automatically you have this pop-up within your screen saying, hey, I want to summarize this video content or have an extract transcript of it, or even slides, 8 slides that have a summary of what we have discussed, or you can have a complete discussion about it. Already run it here. So here you have, for instance, summarize the video content. Now, they have looked at our video from last week. Well, the title is here, the timestamps are here, and just a complete conversation in summaries, which is kind of to say, same of preparation document that we have coming in is coming out at the end as well. really impressed with the quality of that. That's
interesting.
So I was wondering, so what I quite often do, and I think that a lot of people are doing that, is if you are browsing somewhere, you copy and paste something, and then you go to ChatGPT, you paste your screenshot or whatever, you ask your question. Now this all comes within the browser, which makes it pretty nice. Here at the top, you have your Ask GenSpark button, so which is now opening this panel. You can ask anything about the page. Yeah. Another thing that I did with it is, for instance, take a look at our own Innovation Network Twitter page and come up with the 5 hottest news items. So let it crawl over a certain page or combination of pages. And you can also send it to a complete agent, and you can do it over multiple websites. Then you see it just open different tabs and scroll to the video. So now based on our own content, it picks 5 topics that are interesting to read. So if you want an AI summary of large news outlets or something like that, it's pretty easy here as well. And it can also put that back into a podcast with NotebookLM. Just a tiny sliver of the possibilities, and he is also completely integrated in it.
Yeah. We haven't even really begun to experience the potential of that. I haven't even had the time yet to really benefit from MCP and make it all set up. But it's going to be an interesting year. Yeah. This actually leads me to a final addition I would like to make, and that is that for the Dutchies, this week a new blog will go live on BusinessWise for me, and it's all about what if AI stopped developing today? What if today suddenly, we meet the Trisolarans and they send over their special particles? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is the three-body problem where an alien society meets us and then basically blocks our scientific progress. And we have to do we can only work with what we have and improve on that. We can no longer make new things. What if that happened today? What if it happened in our world? What would that mean for the decade to come? And I wrote a blog about that. And I think what people don't realize is that it would still lead to mind-blowing changes in our world because we haven't even begun to really integrate the technology that we created over the last few years.
So I'm curious, what angle did you take? So now we have discovered all the protein folding with AlphaFold, right? Yeah. So we have that knowledge, and we can still utilize that knowledge going forward. We just don't do new discoveries with AI. Is that
exactly
where you hold the ceiling, if you will? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, then there's still a lot to come.
There's so much to come. I mean, we just did 1 billion years of PhD time in that means that we're now we kind of raced forward 1 billion years in some ways, but we still need to translate all of that to practical applications, to practical medicine. And we can still do that now because we have the knowledge. We just need to get it done, right? And so what Sam Altman actually mentioned in his blog is that we're already seeing scientists saying that they're way more productive, that their progress, their research is progressing faster because they get to work with AI. And all of this has only just begun. And over the next decade, that's what we're going to see. We're going to see that acceleration of the practical outcomes of this new technology, which we're not seeing today. There's so many skeptics, right? I see so many posts and articles like, oh, what's really going on? Has AI really changed anything? And then they say, no, it doesn't change anything. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But where is it actually really part of our daily routine yet? How far is it really integrated in our infrastructure and how we do things? It isn't really yet for most people.
Yeah, I don't understand those comments. If AI is changing, everything is always changing. Nothing is static, right? We're just talking about the speed of change. That's also what I'm thinking about. This is, of course, a thought experiment in your blog, obviously, because you cannot stop progress, right? Things are always progressing, but it's
exactly.
Let's talk about a little bit further about it in our next episode and dig a little bit deeper into your thinking there. I would love to do that.
Yeah. I would love that too.
Yeah. Was there more in conclusion from your side, or?
No. I mean, there's lots, of course, but nothing more we need to cover now.
We have to wrap it up anyway. So thanks again for tuning in. If you like what we're doing here and you would like to contribute in a way, liking, sharing, talking about it, reaching out to us if we can do presentations at your work for your friends, we're all open for that. And for now, as they say in the Netherlands,
see you later.
Bridging the gap of exponential growth. Patrick and Ergon share the truth. Join our community, let's innovate. With Innovation Network, create a brighter face.